Hi and welcome back to the Valencia Property Podcast, and this month we've got a bit of a different podcast, and it'll be the last one for a bit because we're probably not going to do one in August. We'll be back in September with season 3 of the Valencia Property Podcast. But anyway, this month we're going to give you some news from the market, have a chat about what's happening on the ground with one of our team, that's Gavin, talk about modernisations and what's going on and going down with them at Valencia Remodels, and also take a look at the latest happenings at Stepping Stone Rentals for the medium-term rentals here in Valencia. First though, deep breath. Thank feck for that. 14 years of an absolute clown show over in the UK. Yes, I'm recording this on the morning after the night before, and they have finally been thrown out. The Tories have gone after 14 years of incompetence, lies, inaction and corruption. They're toast. Hallelujah. For us, it probably means a slowing down of the steady stream of people giving up on the UK and moving here to Valencia for a while. But I'll take that, as it was hard to see my home country fall so far, so hard, and continue to do so year after year. Hopefully, they have a new beginning and can build back, bit by bit, and make the country better than it is at the moment. We're going to start the main podcast with news about short-term rentals and Airbnb, and then we'll move on to mortgages for the younger residents in Spain. For years now, we've been banging the drum about the end of the Airbnb market. You can see plenty of articles about it in our blog. It's not a model we like, and the liberalisation of the market over the years has caused major problems in every city where it is proliferated. These days, the chance of getting a licence is essentially zero, and there's a constant problem with renewals of the current licences if you buy a place with a current licence. Now, Barcelona and Valencia have announced the phasing out of licences and tourist rentals in the next 4 to 5 years. What does this mean though? We think it means licences will not be renewed, and for sure new licences will not be granted. Therefore, please do not get in touch with us saying you want to buy a property and maybe rent it out on Airbnb a bit. We can't, in all good conscience, help you to do that. We have another option, of course, which we'll talk about later on in the podcast, which is the medium-term rental through Stepping Stone Rentals, although there are noises now from the government about putting some restrictions on that type of rental. And you can also help to perk up the long-term rental sector by offering a property there and getting a decent return without the problems associated with short-term renting. The second piece of news is that at a national and local level, the governments are now offering guarantees to younger buyers so they can get up to 95% mortgages. You have to qualify for a normal 70 to 80% mortgage, and the government will guarantee the rest up to 95% of the full cost of the property. This means that younger people will only have to find 5% of the purchase cost. That's a loud bird. I'm sitting out on my terrace here, by the way, and that is a very loud bird. So this means that younger people will only have to find 5% of the purchase cost and the associated costs with purchasing, which are usually 10 to 13% of the price, as younger people pay less tax on their purchase. This makes it much easier for the bank of mum and dad to pick up a smaller tab, or for younger people in work to save their part of the cost. Now, with mortgage rates coming down and rental prices going up, this makes it much more attractive for young people to buy rather than rent. However, expect the usual spate of unscrupulous agents and lenders to offer a complimentary personal loan at much higher interest rates to those who cannot save the part they need to find. Again though, even this will help to ramp up demand. It's another thing making demand even higher here, and therefore supply is getting lower and prices are going higher. Does it affect you though, our client? The help in Valencia is for residents up to 45 years old and with a maximum price of €277,000. Most of our clients don't qualify, as we work mostly with non-residents and you've got to be a resident here to do it. But if you've been here for a few years and have the ability to get a resident mortgage and are under the age range, then it might well work. If you think you qualify, then contact us and we can chat. The next thing we're going to talk about is the news from us at Valencia Property. And as you will know if you've been following us for a while online, last year was a record year for sales in Valencia Property. You can see this in an article which we've attached in the show notes. Well, 6 months into the year and our sales volume has just equalled last year. Yep, we've made the same value of sales in 2024 so far as we did in 2023, which was a record year for us. So without a doubt, 2024 will be another record year for sales on property in Valencia. But the question is, how many more sales will we make as the difficulty of finding a Valencia property grows? Not for nothing are we the number one realtor for Americans in Valencia, and not for nothing are Americans our number one client base. But finding the right places for those people is becoming more and more difficult because of the lack of supply. So what do you need to do so we can help you find your perfect property in Valencia? Get in touch, send us your requirements. You can fill in the form on the page that's attached in the show notes, of course, and tell us. We'll get straight back to you and start the process. Remember, listen to our podcast, follow us on our socials, contact us whichever way you want, and we'll get back to you and start working with you on finding your ideal place here in Valencia. This month on the blog, we talked about various things. We did an article about keeping cool in the Spanish summer. We killed a few dreams with our article about why as a non-EU citizen you cannot just up sticks and move here without a plan. And we provided the plan, by the way, in the article. And we told you all about why we close in August, mostly, and why you really shouldn't be looking for a property in August anyway. We finished the month off and started a new one with our article, Goodbye New World, all about Americans coming here after that debate. Yes, you know the one I'm talking about. You can see the links to all of these articles in the show notes, but we're going to feature what we said about that debate and what happened after. We wrote a blog post specifically for our North American brethren lying below the long line separating them from Canada and above the still unbuilt wall. As the UK finally comes out of 14 years of chaos, instability and general incompetence, not to mention corruption, craven greed and an ongoing drama for the heart and soul of the Conservative Party, it looks like America decided that just 4 years of that type of shit wasn't enough and they're looking to have some more country-destroying division. Nice. I wrote this in the hours and the days after the USA woke up after that debate with a small but growing deluge of mails and messages telling us that the decision is now made and that the move which people have been waiting on is being brought forward by a few months and they want to get into Spain and Valencia now. When your choice of leader is between a pussy-grabbing, porn-star-humping, tax-avoiding convicted felon who just happens to be orange, but not Valencia orange, thank goodness, or your ex-favourite grandpa who might have been doing a decent job but can't string a single sentence together that starts and finishes with the same subject matter, then it might be that your democracy is in a bit of trouble. Anyway, the article went on and you can read it at the link in the show notes. But we then got a nasty surprise and had to add a bit into the article thanks to the lovely Supreme Court of the United States. It did what the newly divided 6'3" SCOTUS now does regularly. It threw a bombshell into the ring and we caught the material damage. It's really put the cat among the pigeons this week. After reversing Roe v. Wade, the Chevron debacle last week and the judgment that you can be in prison for, hold on, just checks notes, oh yeah, being homeless, it decided today that one man is above the law and that man is the orange felon or anyone else in power as president. As Nixon said back in the 70s, if the president does it, then it's legal. Well, he's actually right now. So extrajudicial killings of political opponents, imprisoning opponents or protesters, embezzlement, paying porn stars off, etc. You can now get immunity for it if you're president and you can claim it was an official duty. Nice. Now, in my opinion, Biden should sack all 6 Supreme Court judges and replace them with 6 others and reverse this ruling because he now can. And he will be immune from prosecution. At the same time, he should give an executive order to ban convicted felons from running for the office of president, especially if they're orange, because he can. Far be it from me to suggest that a drone strike on Mar-a-Lago comes within the president's remit now, as others have suggested online, but he could if he wanted to. And if the debate wasn't enough, if everything else wasn't enough, then effectively being unable to elect a king who can act with impunity might be the last straw for some of you. Enjoy it, if not. But you might want to enjoy the rest of your life in Valencia while shaking your head at the mess in the States, but from afar rather than being involved in it. And now on to our chats. Firstly, we chatted with Gavin about what's happening on the ground in Valencia. Right, so we're going to talk with Gav about what's happening on the ground. So you can tell me, Gav, that first question, what is happening on the ground?
What's happening on the ground? We have lots of clients and we have a bit of a shortage of product. Big supply side problem at the moment in Valencia. I mean, there's demand as well, obviously. Valencia is as popular as ever with foreign clients especially, and even among Spanish people I think we're starting to see a little bit. But it's really a supply problem. We just don't have enough houses to sell people at the moment.
So the biggest problem by far is that there's just nothing to buy, or very little?
There's still good stuff out there, but we have to work a little bit harder to get it maybe. And it's keeping prices up and pushing them higher perhaps. So we kind of have let's just say it's not exactly a buyer's market out there at the moment. It's probably the complete opposite, a seller's market.
So what price ranges are essentially impossible now?
Honestly, when we get an email and it's somebody's got a budget of anything under 150, my heart sinks, because we really just can't help them. Even 200 is going to be very limited in what we can do for them and the areas that we can help them with. So really, anything under 200, unless you're willing to be a little bit open-minded more about the areas that you want to look in, it can be very difficult.
So when you say open-minded, you mean outside the city, right?
Yes, I do. Or if you're, yes, I do. I mean outside the city, not too far, still on metro lines. We're not talking about going to a different city or anything like that. But people who have this idea of they would like to be in Valencia, they'd like to be close to the city centre or close to the beach perhaps. At the moment with lower budgets, it's just not possible. And location always being the most important thing. That's where we can really find really good quality properties for people. Just maybe not in their first choice of areas, but still in very, very good areas. Areas that are really good for local people, actually. If you ask the local Valencian people, would they like to live out on the metro line, for example, where I live myself, Almasra, Meliana, and out towards even as far as maybe Massimo Gray, place like that, they'd say, yeah, absolutely. They're considered good towns, good places to live, all the facilities, only a couple of kilometres from the beach. But to somebody coming from outside Valencia and they don't know the area that well, maybe it's a harder sell.
We've got a similar thing coming up here. I mean, we're recording this in La Pobla where I live. It's 18 kilometres out. There's so much demand here now, and a lot of that demand is from Spanish people who are going, well, I can't afford what I want in the city, so let's go out to a town with 25,000 people, with all the facilities, and it's easy to get in and out of the city.
Yeah.
So, we won't go east because that place is under the sea, but west, north, southwest.
Definitely. I mean, Torrent is somewhere I'll probably mention later on again in this conversation. There's definitely options, definitely.
Okay, so what are the most popular areas, both in and outside the city at the moment?
Well, the most popular are always going to be the most popular. I mean, in the city, obviously Rusafa and the areas around it. Gran Via, if you've got the money and you're willing to do a little bit of renovation, there's fantastic properties still available in Gran Via. Outside the city, well, everyone's first choice is always Liliana. Sometimes because of budget, we have to look somewhere else. Like I just mentioned, Torrent and the urbanizations outside Torrent, El Bedat, and even a little bit further in Calicanto. Really, really good value out there at the moment when you compare it to like for like what you would have to pay in Liliana, for example, or La Cañada.
Especially Calicanto. We've seen some really good stuff out there.
And really not that much further from the city. And even, you could argue, it's close to the beach, it's close to the airport. I myself have made a couple of sales out there in the last 6 months, and it was an area that we wouldn't have considered probably as little as 2 years ago. And now I'm starting to, it's working really well for some people.
So despite all the lack of the lack of stuff to sell, you've probably had your most successful month ever in last month, yeah?
I think we've all done pretty well, really. I think I saw something that you commented on the other day, that we've already done as many sales this year as we did in the entire of last year.
Which was our record,
which was our best year, exactly. Yeah. So I think we're all doing really well at the moment. It's just, like, I don't want to put anybody off by saying there are less properties for sale, because we can still find really good stuff for people that work really well for them. The only thing is, people might not have a choice. That's something that I really have to kind of manage expectations with clients. In an ideal world, we'd find you 3 or 4 places and we'll say they're all equally good, you take your choice. But nowadays, we find you one really, really good place. We're going to tell you it's really, really good. You can believe us or not, but that's the one you should buy. And the people who believe us and buy it are proving to be very satisfied, and that's how we're making sales. Yeah,
one of the examples we got this week is Dave's got someone who's coming in with a budget that is, 33% more than they had 3 months ago, 4 months ago when they came over. And there was nothing then with the original budget, and there's nothing now with the budget they've got, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I have a couple of clients like that as well. we had seen things maybe a year ago. I've been working with them for a while, and I kind of said, "This is really good. You should probably go for this." They didn't, because they said, "Well, maybe something else will come along," and now, like, I don't know what metaphor you want to use, like a rising tide or something like that. But they've been left behind. They've been left behind.
Yes.
So,
unfortunately. So, what do you see happening the rest of this year then?
I mean, it can't continue like this. Something has to change, you'd say. The rental market is crazier than ever. Government are starting to talk about some important changes in regulations concerning Airbnb. I mean, the most immediate and maybe the most effective thing they could possibly do might be to free up all these bajos these are ground floor apartments. They're commercial typically, which means you can't live in them long term. But if they were to make it easier to convert these into residential properties, that might free up a lot of property onto the market, because they're not building them fast enough.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That should be happening. It should be really, really easy to change what they can be used for. At the moment, it's like, yeah, you can put them as an Airbnb, and it's like, well, that's not helping the market.
No, it's not good for some communities either.
Yeah.
Some of the areas in the city where we have new developments and they haven't had a chance to have your bar and your restaurant and your hairdressers and your pharmacy downstairs, we're seeing them being completely taken up by Airbnb, which means they'll never have a community there unless something is done. So unless something dramatic like that is done by the local government, it's really hard to see where this changes, because it won't be solved by building new units. It's just not happening fast enough.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of years ago we had 11,000 properties for sale famously on Idealista. This week it's down to 3,900, I believe. You know, and obviously those 3,900 aren't 3,900. A lot of them are sold, a lot of them are dual listings, etc. If supply keeps going down like that, we just keep getting higher prices, right?
Yeah, and at some point you'd say, at what point does it spark? At what point are the prices high enough that it persuades enough owners to say, right, now is the time?
That's a good point, because it could come to the point where they say, right, I'm going to sell now. I think one of the things that will make people sell is if there is some really, really major crackdown on Airbnb. Because at that point, especially those who are holding a lot of properties, and they've been told, well, you've got to put them into the long-term rental market. People don't want to do that. At that point, I think some things will come out for sale.
Yeah. But, you know, we've seen no signs of it. It's just steadily falling. That number's like, how low can you go? Really, like, how low can you actually go?
I mean, it's been limboing under the numbers that we thought
for
some time now.
I remember, I have a text that I pinned. I sent it, I don't know when. I think we hit 5,100, and I stupidly predicted, I think this might be the lowest. I think it was just after Christmas. And I said, right, time of year, that's probably as low as we'll get now.
And it's only dropped by about 25%.
I know, and it's still going down, and it's still falling.
So you're looking forward to the summer?
Yeah, we are. I am. Yes, family are. We've had a very, very intense couple of months with some clients. Golden visa, meaning a lot of stress for some clients, getting that over the line for a couple of people. We're nearly there now with those. So yeah, it actually won't be any harm at all to have a little bit of an easing, because I'm sure when September rolls around again in October, I'm sure we're going to be really, really busy again.
Well, I assume you've already got people booked in for September and October.
Yeah. Working with people all the time that I've been working with for months and months and months. But yeah. Sometimes it's hard to look too far ahead. You're kind of dealing, week to week.
Yes.
But it'll all start again in September, I'm sure.
So when we have,
I'll be ready for it then. After a bit of a break, I'll be up for it then.
When we have that sort of break in August, it's like we're not really having a full break. We are still preparing stuff for September and October. We're not just going to turn up and go, oh, there's nothing left.
No, and there'll be a couple of signings over the summer, and paperwork stuff and things like that to kind of keep you tipping away. Yeah. So, but it's grand. It's okay to have a busy time and a little bit not so busy time as well.
Yeah, I mean, with what's been happening in America over the last couple of years, the last week since that debate, and yes, I'll mention it again, that debate, and yesterday with the Supreme Court thing, I'm just getting loads and loads of people going, we're going to move now. Yeah, we're going to move now. We're not going to wait. We're just going to go now. And it's like, we're going to have to find you something first. Yeah. And then, of course, the rental market is just as bad. So people hoping to come and rent, like
I mean, Jess looks after our rentals and Catherine as well, and really, I mean, they have a tough job as well, trying to find places for people.
Yeah, I mean, luckily we've got the 3-month ones that are available, and because obviously by definition after 3 months they become available. That's good because we've got a constant turnover on those. But this long-term rental thing now I'm just saying to everyone, it's really, really getting difficult now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, really, really hard. Really hard.
On that note, we finish.
Thanks very much.
10. Okay, so as promised, we're talking with Maz about the projects that we've got for Valencia Remodels at the moment, which is another of our sister companies. So, how many projects are you happy with doing at one time, more or less?
It really depends on what the projects entail. So, we've got some projects that are very, very time consuming, in which case we'd have less capacity for projects at the time. And then we've got projects that are much less time consuming. It always depends on the amount of work that's been done beforehand, how quickly we've had to start, and a lot of other things. At the moment, I'd say usually we can take on maybe around 4 at a time, just to give you a number, but it really does depend.
Okay, so projects that are not so time consuming are things like just doing somebody's kitchen or something like that?
In the past, yes. However, now we've got so many big projects on that it's very difficult to fit in these smaller projects. So by how time consuming, it's not the size of and scope of the project, it's more the difficulty of the project. It's something that's very straightforward, just swapping what's there already for newer, brighter, more shiny things? Or is it a complete remodel, complete knockdown, redistribution? There's a lot more things to think about in that case.
Yeah, I've got someone asking in a moment about renovating a townhouse, and that's a lot more difficult than renovating an apartment, right?
Again, it depends what you want to do.
Everything. Yeah, I mean, the types of townhouses they're looking at are the ones where you see the pictures and you go, okay, that's got a damp problem to start off with.
If it's got a damp problem, that's an issue. It depends. If it's a townhouse that's in good condition, the great thing about houses is that there's very few restrictions on what you can do. So things like where you want to put a toilet, for example, as it's your house, you can do anything you want, really. In an apartment, you've got a lot more restrictions on it.
Yeah, you're more limited where you can put it.
Exactly. But it also means that even though you're restricted, but you've got less things to spend money on.
Yeah, the other thing though is about supporting walls, and there tend to be a lot more in townhouses.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Houses tend to be built in a different way to flats, although recently we have found a couple that do have supporting walls, funnily enough.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us about the type of projects you're doing at the moment.
So at the moment we're currently working on full remodels, and the clients have like more luxury tastes than what we've been used to in the past. And we're doing some beautiful apartments at the moment. It's all full remodels. A lot of them have redistribution, so changing where bathrooms are going or changing where the kitchen's going, or at least it's very rare we don't have to take down at least one wall now.
Yeah, because Spanish apartments they tend to be divided up too much, don't they?
Yep, so my theory is that Spanish apartments are made for a past where it was very difficult to heat and cool, or very expensive to heat and cool spaces. Now we're living in a time where it's much cheaper to do, it's much more efficient, but also the way people live has changed a lot.
Yeah. Are you talking about the Catholicism there, or what? There used to be more people in the family, and therefore the spaces are more divided
more
up.
people in the family, so they'd have smaller spaces each, and that. Yeah, but also just things like people now really like open plan kitchens, in general. Most of the stuff that we're asked to do is open plan kitchens. I'm doing an open plan kitchen for myself.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the awkward things is that usually the kitchen's near to the living room, but sometimes the kitchen's at the other end from the living room, and that makes things a bit more difficult.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as difficult as a bathroom.
Yes.
Kitchens are easier to move because the plumbing's not as restrictive. but there are some restrictions, and you do need to need to be able to see the space to know what you can do with it.
Okay, so here's the how long is a piece of string question for you. It's like, what's the average cost per square metre at the moment? Because we're saying to people always ask us this, and that the price that we've been quoting to people as an average, but you can't take our word for it because it depends on the property, etc., has gone up. It's basically doubled in the last 3-4 years, from 600 a square metre up to 1,200 a square metre.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree. It used to be a lot cheaper. It depends on what you're doing as well. So the more you do, the cheaper it's going to be per metre.
Yeah.
However, 4 or 5 years ago, I could have done a whole remodel of a place for 400 or 500 euros a metre. Now, cheaper than 800
it's very
difficult.
Yeah.
And the type of clients we tend to have now, you're looking more towards 1,000 to 1,200 per metre, and not 800.
Well, the other thing is about that, the reason that the prices have gone up so much is, for example, windows have doubled in cost.
It's mainly windows, things like kitchens, things that you've got to purchase. So things like tiles, they're more or less the same price as they used to be. Labour isn't hugely more expensive. Labour costs haven't gone up that much in the past few years. But it's things like aluminium, so the windows, they've doubled, maybe even tripled in price. It's gone up a lot.
I actually read the other day on it was an article about renovations on the islands, and I don't know whether it's different here, but on the islands, the cost of a brick has gone up from 11 cents to 22 cents a brick. Yeah, so if you imagine you're building a house, that's basically doubling the price of the base structure of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you're doing a renovation, a lot of the time you're taking bricks away rather than putting bricks in, because you're knocking walls down.
Yeah, we don't usually, it depends again on the type. So a lot of the time we do a full gut and start from scratch.
Yeah.
We get rid of absolutely everything and then do a full new redistribution. In that case, obviously you're using a lot of bricks. But we also, in Spain, they've started using a lot more drywall than brick now, because it's a lot faster.
Yeah.
So it might be a bit more expensive material-wise, but the labour's much cheaper because you can do it in a day.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of modular stuff coming on for new builds as well.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your capacity for more projects? Because at the moment, when we get a client, we're taking them round and we're saying, right, we can get this done, but the question is when. So what's your capacity? Is there a waiting list at the moment, or what?
There is a waiting list. So we used to be able to more or less accommodate people straight away. Now that brings issues on its own because you're not ready to start. So now we do have a waiting list, which is good for us, in fact, because it gives us more time to work on the proposal, and we know exactly what we're doing when we start, which makes the work after faster.
Okay.
So although it might take a couple of months to be able to start, it also takes a couple of months less to actually do it.
Okay, so if we were talking somebody was buying tomorrow, and I know we've got summer coming up as we speak at the moment. I know this podcast is coming out in July, but there'll be people who listen to it later in the year and stuff like that. But if we said somebody bought tomorrow and it was a full reform that was needed, when do you think you'd be starting? Would it be 1 month, 2 months, 3 months? And how long do you think it would take, let's say, for a standard 100 metre flat?
So again, it depends entirely on what our builders have going on. Right now, if you were to ask me to do a full remodel of a 100 metre flat, I would tell you we'd have to start in October. Now that's quite a long time because August is a dead month in Valencia.
Totally.
No builders.
I won't be
from
here,
from
so.
all our. We work with 3 or 4 different builders. Only one of them works in August. The rest
And therefore
completely
he's probably
stopped.
totally booked up already.
And he's totally booked up. We've got all our builders booked until October, November, depending on the builder. And the thing is, that's normal. It's a normal thing in every country that you can't just start tomorrow.
Yeah. And so what's your idea for having more capacity, potentially?
Well, we're actually currently working on having our own crew, so we don't just subcontract everything. That from September we're hoping to be able to start, and we've been speaking to people who we actually have worked with for a number of years who are interested.
The ones you know are good.
The ones that we know are good.
Yeah.
To come and work with us. And we're also going to be hiring a new project manager soon as well, because at the moment there's 2 of us, plus a procurement agent, a procurement manager, and it's insane. I mean, we go through the list of the amount of projects that we've got waiting to start, and it's overwhelming, really.
Yeah.
To think about what the workload there's going to be in September is.
Yeah, which is good.
A lot. It's great, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Okay, and the most important question for everyone, I mean for me, when will you be updating your website?
So this is
because you've got loads of projects which you finished.
Yeah. The problem with having so much work is you don't have time to do those little things.
Just little things, yeah.
Yeah.
Like updating your website.
We actually have 2 really, really nice projects finishing in the next month, which we want to get proper photos taken of, put them on the site. And
you did remember to take the photos at the start of the project.
Yes, of course we did.
Yeah.
And we've got photos from throughout the process as well that
Yeah.
we like to put up, just because it's fun to see a demoed place. But we do plan on starting to update the website more, maybe get a bit of help doing that as well, because at the end of the day, this is it's a full-time job, and you're constantly dealing with little emergencies that turn into giant. I mean, how?
Yeah, tell us about yesterday. Go on. So we were due to have this conversation yesterday, and it didn't happen because.
So yesterday was supposed to be a quiet day with absolutely nothing happening, and we were going to spend time just doing things at the computer, because we never get to sit at the computer and do things.
Oh dear, how sad.
And then within the space of an hour, me and Jesse probably got about 60 calls between us, all about different things and different things coming up. And then suddenly this one material that needs to be installed on Monday couldn't be installed on Monday because it's not in stock anymore, and we got told today. So now I've got to try and find an alternative for Monday, and that means running around, going to different suppliers, speaking to different people.
I believe it was the 3rd place you went to that had it, yeah?
Yeah, I had to go to 3 different places. After looking online...
This is how we keep it on time, by the
way. Jesse was the same. He had issues at another place, or suddenly the builder calls you and doesn't know where the bathroom's going in a place. I mean, obviously not something that big, but there's
They've
little
got
things.
questions.
They've always got questions, and we've got to be on top of it, because at the end of the day, we're our client's eyes and ears.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add then before we finish this? Because obviously the next time we'll have a chance to talk will probably be 2026 or something like that.
No, just that every year I feel like this gets busier and busier, even though we're waiting for a crash at some point, but it doesn't seem to be happening. We've been waiting for it for the past 3 years.
Yeah, it's not happening.
And we just get more and more work.
Well, you know, you do a good job on a place, they recommend it to their friends who are buying, and then you're doing another place, and another place, and another place. And we keep
a second place.
And we keep selling stuff.
Yeah.
We keep selling stuff.
And it's going well. And we're also continuously looking for new builders. It's hard because we don't want to test a new builder on a big project.
On somebody's job.
Exactly.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, we're then responsible for that builder.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that this builder knows what they're doing, they work well. So for that kind of thing, we do like little projects, because it's a lot easier to test someone on a bathroom, because if it goes wrong, it's less expensive to fix.
Yeah.
And by less expensive to fix, I mean for me, because that's who's going to be having to pay, not the client.
Well, we did exactly that on our bathroom a few years back. We went away for a couple of weeks in the summer, had the bathroom done while we were away, gave them strict instructions about what it was and everything. They came back and did a great job. At the same time, they hadn't closed any doors or anything, and the house was full of dust, which we specifically told them to do. Make sure every door is closed, and make sure they're cutting the tiles and things outside, which they didn't. So as you can imagine, that builder doesn't work with us. We got a nice bathroom, but hey.
Hey, but what about the bathroom you did last summer?
Yeah, the bathroom we did last summer, that was another job. That was a different job, and that was fine, and the floor was fine and stuff.
I wonder why it was fine. Who was overseeing that?
Well, wasn't you? You were away, weren't you?
No, I was here.
Oh, right, of course, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's how we test things. We self-medicate, if you like. Yeah. Your house at the moment is getting done. It's getting done by a builder we know, yeah?
It's getting done by a builder we know, but we've used less.
Yeah.
Just
so it's how they can stick to a plan and things like that, yeah?
Yeah, well, I know this builder needs to that needs to have a bit more oversight. You need to tell them the order in which to do things, and not to start absolutely everything and then realise you've got 100 different things to finish and stuff like that. And I know that it's a builder that tends to be a bit slower, so I'm not in a rush for my job. I also know that there's other priorities, and then if I need to send this person to another one of our jobs to do something, I will just take him off mine and go there.
Yours is never going to be finished then, is what
Mine's
you're saying?
never going to be finished, is what I'm saying, yeah. Well, actually, I'm going to start tiling next week.
Okay, right. You were supposed to be finished now, yeah?
No.
No, right, okay. So you're going to start tiling. The walls are up there for you?
The walls are up, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, right. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Okay, so on to Stepping Stone Rentals. We've done the rest of the podcast, and Kath, hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
What's the demand like at the moment?
Well, on the rise, and that would be saying it lightly.
Yeah.
Valencia is the new Barcelona. Maybe could I say
Please,
as far as
please don't call it that. Please.
no, but in terms of demand, not
Yeah.
in terms of quality of life.
Yeah.
It's attracting a lot of attention, and well, fortunately, it's the kind of attention that's not vacation style. It's the let's make this a home-based style.
So where's the demand coming from?
Well, primarily, most of our demand is coming from the U.S. A lot of Americans, they're desperate for a higher quality of life and are turning towards Valencia.
Okay, so why the 3-month rentals? Why the Stepping Stone Rentals?
Well, there's a few key points to why 3 months. You're not locked in. If you do a long-term rental, you have to do 12 months or longer. And there are people that say, well, then break that contract and leave at 6, but then you end up losing your deposit and you have to pay the months that you haven't been there. It's a bit of a mess. So 3 months, you're not locked in. You have enough time to have your feet on the ground, see which neighborhoods you like, where you want to be, get a taste for Valencia. So we try to facilitate a reasonable amount of time to then figure out where you want to end up next.
Yeah, because there's two real problems with the long-term rentals. Well, there's three. The first problem is there aren't any. Yeah, it's very difficult to find them for foreigners, right?
Yeah.
The second one is if you can find them, they generally want 12 months up front.
Yeah.
Yeah, and therefore you're paying a lot more out to start off with.
Yeah.
And the third one is when they don't want 12 months up front, you're still paying 3 months out because you're paying the deposit the first month and the agency fee, which shouldn't be charged but is still getting charged.
It is still being charged, yeah.
So, what we're finding is that the 3 months of the stepping stone is the same as the minimum they're going to have to pay anyway.
Exactly.
But then you might be locked into the wrong place.
Exactly.
Yeah. We find people who are seeing stuff, or rather, booking stuff without seeing it. Yeah. Now, we do that as well, but at least you're only locked into it for 3 months if you don't like it, I suppose.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, everything we have published online gives a pretty accurate idea of what you're going into, where I've seen listings of incredible places where you would never want to walk into it because there's no information. There are a few pictures that don't give you a good idea. There's no location clarity, and
the pictures are often not the place that they're advertising.
It's sometimes that as well.
Yeah. I mean, I've done reverse image searches and found places in the rest of Europe which are supposedly flats in Valencia, and they're not.
Oh, that's funny. So risky. With ours, we try to give as much information and transparency up front. That way, even if someone is booking abroad, they know what to expect. And also, they're in constant contact with me. Once the booking has been set and confirmed, then we're either through email or through WhatsApp just constantly talking about the details of their arrival, what to expect, where to be, how to get here. I offer them a taxi service if needed. So it's, this handheld.
That's very useful, but apart from that, on the page you've got the photos, the location, the 360, so they can actually look at everything in the flat, right?
And you can zoom in and out,
Yeah.
and you have a floor plan.
Yeah, exactly, which is also helpful.
Well, to orient a bit.
Yeah, it just helps people a little
yeah.
thing, you know.
Yeah.
So the next thing, we talked about the difficulty in finding a long-term rental in Valencia. Yeah. What about outside the city? So are people asking for inside the city? They are asking for outside the city? They're asking for flats? They're asking for houses? How is it?
Yeah, the majority of our clients are looking for inside the city, and rather than outside. And with that, also very specific locations to inside the city. And what a lot of our clients not being here realize is that that's a mistake.
Yeah.
Because Valencia, I think there's actually a bit of FOMO happening of wanting to be on top of the buzz of Valencia, and they're not realizing that Valencia has specific neighborhoods that are like microcosmos, and so it's very varied from one neighborhood to another, and then if you go outside of Valencia, it's also a whole nother world that's an amazing experience and a Valencian experience, and there are also other expats that are living outside of Valencia. And so to want to just come into the city center, or there's like 3 main areas that people are
yeah, I've got to be
for.
in the Cardamom, I've got to be in the Muthafa, I've got to be in Sanche, yeah?
Yeah, those are actually the 3 main places.
Yeah.
And for example, I would prefer to be outside, experiencing normal life, and knowing that I can go into these high demand areas at any moment.
Yeah.
But not, sleeping on top of it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so,
I mean, for example, I'm collecting the keys this week for the one we've got in La Pobla de Ibona, where I actually live. And they've been there for 3 months. They've absolutely loved it. The only reason they're leaving is because we're coming to the end of the contract and they've now bought the place that they were buying.
how
So,
exciting.
they're moving into the place they've bought. This place becomes available. It's a bit more difficult to do the rentals because all of the demand is for the city.
Correct. And also people don't realize how well connected outside city areas are to Valencia.
Or at least the ones we've chosen.
Well, yeah, there are exactly. The ones in our listings are really well connected. You have the train, the bus, or if you've got a car, sometimes they're just off of the highway.
10-15 minutes to get into the city for most of them.
Yeah.
But again, because we're getting the demand within the city, we're getting more properties in the city to satisfy the demand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, we're getting so much that I'm gonna have to start drawing some lines and saying we'll come to you, but not right yet, because we just have so many properties that like our business plan, that like how we're working, and the type of client that we're bringing in, and they want to be part of it.
Well, you don't know, but we got 2 more of those this week. One is Shativa. I'm
wonderful.
not going down to Shativa at this very moment in time. And another one down in Javier. Now, it could be a place that we do it, but not at the moment. You know, because we'd need 5-6 places down in Shativa or Javier, and somebody to look after it, because you don't want to be popping down to Javier to do a booking in, and then it's the city and around the city.
Will you leave me your electric car? Maybe then I would, or the hybrid.
No, you're not getting my
Then
car.
in that case, I'm not going to go that far just yet.
So yeah, it's we do get a lot of offers for properties which we don't accept as well, because they're not going to be suitable.
Yeah. We get a lot that don't tick all the boxes.
Yeah, or that say, right, yes, we'll accept it, but first you need to do this, and this, and then they don't do it, and we don't take the property. Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to say about it at the moment?
Probably one of the main thing is to give us notice if you're looking for a renter.
Notice, yeah.
Plenty of notice, and a bit of flexibility with where you want to be for your next 3 months.
Yeah, not more the where you want to be rather than the timings, right? Because if somebody says, look, I'm arriving on the 1st of September, they are arriving on the 1st of September. We can't be flexible about that. We can say, get an Airbnb for the first week because this place only becomes available on the 6th, for example, or something like that, But when you're talking about flexibility, it's like, it's not got to be just this area.
Right.
Because Valencia isn't massive.
Exactly.
It doesn't really matter where you are as long as the property's good. And at the moment, the properties are good.
We'll
keep it that way if we can.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot, Kath.
Thank you very much.
And that's it for this month. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any questions about anything, obviously, just send us an email at information@valencia-property.com or get in touch with us on any of our socials. We'll be here until the end of July, more or less, and then we're taking the month of August off, but we are contactable during August. A couple of us are around, so if anything needs doing, we can actually do it. Yeah. But for now, goodbye from this episode of the podcast. We'll be back in September. If I get bored in my holiday in August, I might make one in August, but I doubt it. So, good luck to you in your summer. Hopefully you have a good week. Hopefully you have a good month. And we'll get back to you in September.